the many faces of death.
Hey there, friends and family. Welcome to a new show. This is The Haunted Frame. My name is Dan. I'm joined here by a couple of guests today, but I want to frame this discussion as the new show, The Haunted Frame, where we talk about horror and exploitation and just weird stuff that we wouldn't really normally talk about on the other show. But I want to start The Haunted Frame off with a banger. And to bring in the show, I want to introduce my guests. First off, I have Joey from Kentucky. How you doing, bud?
I am alive and well. How are you?
Not doing too bad. It's Sunday. I just recorded the Passion of the Christ Dan and Adam episode, and I'm a little tired, to be honest with you. Recording 2 episodes back to back is tough. It's tough to keep the energy, but I'm going to do my best. And to help us with that, we got our other guest, Various Spaghetti, our very good friend, returning champion, Blake. But I guess first time on this show. What's up, bud?
Yeah, how we doing today?
We're doing well. How are you doing, Spaghetti? I'm always curious. How are you doing?
I'm living. I'm here.
You're living. You're not. You don't have the face of death.
No, not currently.
Many faces of death.
The many faces of death. So I guess let's start off up top. I brought us together to talk about Faces of Death today. This is a movie that is like a cultural. I think I called it like a haunted object. Let's keep it in theme. It's like it's a movie that people saw when they were, or heard about when they were really young. When did you guys first hear about Faces of Death?
I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. The man, he's not human.
Well, I don't know when I first heard about it. It would have been sometime as a child, just seeing it at the video store. You know, I remember going to like Movie Warehouse for sure and seeing it there when I was probably 11 or 12. So that'd been like 94, something like that. But it was always just one of those movies that, as a kid, I wasn't into horror until I was older. So I would see that and be like, man, that looks scary. Really, people dying? Who would watch that? That must be satanic, that type of thing.
What about you, Spaghetti?
For me, I would say, I'm sure I came across it a couple times in like mom and pop rental shops. I think the first time it really like registered with me, like what it was when I was like junior high to high school, somewhere in that era, like early high school or something. I had a book called like, I had a couple reference books. One of them was like 1001 Movies to See Before You Die, and there's something else, but I think it was a listed entry in that, and I sort of used that book as like a checklist, and I would try to go see like all the different films in that book, and I'm pretty sure Faces of Death was one of them in there. So that's how it sort of first registered with me.
It's tough. We're all older. Like, I'm the youngest among us, and I'm 32. So it's hard to remember like those facts and details of like, when did I hear about this movie? A lot of times for me, it's like I watched maybe like a sci-fi, or I don't know which channel used to do like, they used to do those breakdowns where they'd be like top 50 horror movies, hundreds most controversial horror movies of all time or whatever. And you'd have like talking heads on there, and they'd talk about like Cannibal Holocaust, they'd talk about Faces of Death. And I don't know, I feel like that's how I discovered half of this shit. So growing up, like, and talking to like people like Adam, for example, one of my good friends, a co-host of the Dan and Adam Are Afraid podcast, he had never really seen it, never heard of like a lot of stuff that I'm just like, I thought everyone knew what Cannibal Holocaust was. You know what I mean?
Space, the final frontier, and nobody to share the experience with. People get lonely even in the strangest places. I'm ready to talk to. Call 976-CHAT. For $2 plus toll, if any, you can talk with up to 8 other interesting people. 976-CHAT. It's fun and exciting, so don't miss out on the adventure. Call now. It's out of this world.
Well, let's talk about Faces of Death. This came out in 1978. In Japan, this was called Junk, Death, and Tragedy. I like pointing out the Japanese differences here and there. Good IMDb description: a collection of death scenes ranging from TV material to homemade Super 8 movies. Experience the graphic reality of death close up.
Warning, if the brutal and explicit depiction of actual death is upsetting to you, please do not view this film.
Banned in 46 countries.
See, that was so much easier.
46, I know. I'll give you the hard. Banned in 46 countries. Damn. This is one of those movies, right? Like, it's one of those things you hear about. It's like Cannibal Holocaust, banned in 50 countries. This is the other one you hear about, is Faces of Death. Now, this was written and directed. He's like Quentin Tarantino, by John Allen Schwartz. A name that no one has heard about ever, but he goes by different pseudonyms. You'll see them in the opening credits. It's a thing that exploitation movies and low budget horror movies would do, is they just make up names. They'd say, well, I wrote it, but I'll give myself the name Alan Black, and that'll just make this seem more legitimate, like more people are involved. For example, I was looking at the opening credits really quickly before we started again. It said, writer Alan Black. And then it said director of photography, Michael Golden, was the American unit, and then Dimitri Fermo was the European unit. Do you think they even had a European unit?
I don't know. Maybe to like, I don't know. Maybe like you said, which ones are real or fake. Maybe some are from Europe or something, and that's, just they got the public stock footage there. They had to go to, their equivalent of the library archives or whatever.
This thing's kind of an enigma, right? Like, there's still, I don't know, Spaghetti, you have the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Did that have the commentary at least on it?
Let me look that up. I didn't look that up.
Okay, so he didn't listen to the commentary, but I would kill to listen to that commentary, because it's literally, and there's also, I think, Faces of Death number 6, one of those where he just goes over, he's like, this was real, this was fake, this was real, this was fake. And you'd be surprised how hard it is to find these movies online. What's up with that, guys?
Oh, real quick. Special features on 2008 Blu-ray. The feature-length commentary with Conan Le Cilaire.
There you go.
And there's
some of your Blu-ray, Spaghetti.
And then Choice Cuts featurette and Death Makers featurette.
Well, let's talk about what Conan Le Cilaire made.
Le Cilaire, there you go.
I'm talking about his first movie, Faces of Death, 1978. A banned film curiosity and a rite of passage rental. I guess that's what I'd call it, rite of passage. Did your friends even know about this, or no? This is just something you discovered because you're sick.
Maybe from like the video store thing where it's like, oh, look at that.
You weren't peer pressured into watching this? They weren't like, hey, Joey, come over and watch Faces of Death with us.
No, I don't remember anybody even talking about it, I don't think.
Yeah, that speaks to how small this thing was. It seems big in retrospect, but...
Yeah.
Now, Faces of Death. Have you guys seen any of the sequels? Because there are quite a few.
No.
I think I've seen a few. It's been a while, so I forget. They're all muddled.
I watched Faces of Death 2 for this recording. I watched that in its entirety. It's not bad, but it's a lot more just like accident footage and like news footage of like accidents and stuff. It's a lot more of that. Like there's like a famous boxing match where some guy gets knocked out and goes into a coma and later died. They include that footage. It's a lot more of like, real stuff, but it's like, I don't know. We'll get into it. But yeah, there's Faces of Death 2 from 1981. A couple years later, Faces of Death 3 from 1985. The Worst Faces of Death from 1987. Faces of Death 4 from 1990. Faces of Death 5 from 1995. And Faces of Death 6 from 1996. And finally, Faces of Death Fact or Fiction from 1999, which I wish I had found a copy of. This stuff's hard to come by. But John Allen Schwartz, he did not much, as you can believe, outside of that. He did write the screenplay for 1987's House of the Rising Sun, which is an R-rated drama film directed by Greg Gold. Set in the 1980s, this murder mystery stars Jamie Barrett as a cub reporter who poses as a hooker to get the dirt on a shady pimp.
Your friend Jill, she's becoming of less and less use to me.
She'll be fine.
So what are you saying that I do?
Give her some time.
Come here, Corey. What do you see out there?
I see the city, Lewis.
If you disappeared tomorrow, no one out there would miss you.
Parking on a hill, okay?
I just love that poster. Don't you guys? Isn't that a great poster?
Yeah, I like. I don't know what that font is. It's like an Art Deco font, I guess. I don't know. I might be an idiot saying that, but this actually sounds like a movie I'd like to see. I don't think the reviews are very good though, but
yeah, probably not. This is one you'd picture like, Vinegar Syndrome puts this out, right? Mm-hmm. They're like from the writer of Faces of Death.
Yeah, and it's $60.
I'll check it out. Now I sometimes have a good and the bad section here. Someone help me fill it out a little bit. What is the good about, let's say, John Allen Schwartz directing these. This weird nobody knows about. What do you think his strengths were with putting these together? Just that he's cheap,
Yeah.
and he has access to a lot of death footage.
Yeah, I think going back to a couple points that we had there, I think it sort of correlates with all this. First of all, I just want to say I do think that this was probably a rite of passage film for like early Gen X because they grew up with it versus us being late Gen X and millennials. So it was before our era, but I do think it was a bit of a rite of passage. But I think the rental store system was in full force in the 80s and 90s. And I think he was able to take full advantage of that with like, there's abundance of footage and news is made almost every day. And so I'm sure that he took full advantage of just, releasing these films over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And he would probably made his money back very easily just based upon how good the rental system was.
Well, I mean, the Worst Faces of Death, that's like the best of the first three, right? And I guess that would have been the time that 1987 would have been a pretty milestone year, I think, for rental. That's probably when you're starting to see it everywhere. I know that we started, I was born in 83, so I don't really remember a time without a video store. But I would think we would have had a video store at this point in my small town. Definitely by 89 we did. So I don't know exactly when it opened, but I know it was like a mainstay in those. So, they're just wanting anything. And I'm sure, VHS tapes costing $100 a pop right around that time. These were probably sold for, 40 a pop or something. That'd be interesting to know. I'd be interested to hear the distribution story on that.
That's the tough thing. Unless you were around at the time, and none of us really were, we don't have those details, and they're not widely available. Especially the economics behind this movie, which we know almost nothing about. The bad. Someone wrote almost all of it. Was that you, Joey?
That was me, yes. And that's probably a little unfair. I do give it a pretty bad rating overall. And like Spaghetti said, it's probably, it's for people a little older than me as a rite of passage thing. If you took kids right now and show them the first Halloween or Friday the 13th, they're not going to be very impressed by it, probably, especially if they were kids that, went places on the internet that kids shouldn't go. And it's kind of the same thing, when you look at it, though, in the frame of what it is, it was a pretty good catalyst for a lot of stuff, and it was an interesting idea. But like I was talking to Dan about it at one point, but it's like, who is this movie really for? It's like, not for me.
Yeah, it's not really like... I think these movies do still have shock value, especially when we maybe talk about a little bit Traces of Death later. But Traces of Death and Faces of Death, I think they do have shock value, especially the slaughterhouse footage in particular, just because it's so cold and clinical. You show anyone slaughterhouse footage and show them sheeps being put down a assembly line and have their throats cut and their heads cut off and all this shit, it's gonna affect and shock people. But it is interesting, and that's why we were talking about a moment ago, and we can maybe get into it a little bit, but there is the remake coming out, right? And how would you approach the remake in 2020? I know this one was I think shot in 2023, but how do you approach a remake of Faces of Death, Joey? How do you do that?
I guess I've seen little clips of the trailer, and I see them on their phones, so I'm going to assume it's going to be viral TikTok murder or something like that, which would be the way I think to go about it. I remember, I don't know if this was actually someone's script or just someone on the internet talking about how would you reimagine Nightmare on Elm Street, and it would be have Freddy go through a viral video, and that's how he gets into people's dreams, which is a cool idea, I think. So if they do something like that where it's somehow social media involved, which I assume it is, because like I say, I've seen stills or whatever, and that would make sense. That's how I would go about it.
It's about a lady played by Barbie Ferreira, who's a content moderator for a platform. And so her job is to go through and like look at videos that are uploaded, and she's like, you know, they're fucked up. And I guess she discovers like this like guy doing Faces of Death again, because Faces of Death apparently, from what I can tell, exists within the movie, so it's meta.
Oh.
I don't know. It is what you're saying though. It's based on social media. They're gonna have the infinite scroll on Faces of Death.
The many faces of death.
Yeah. I think with all this, yeah, obviously we live in a different culture than when this came out. That's the first thing, obviously, to realize. This is a pre-internet era, and so people weren't they weren't exposed to this kind of shock. Like today, we're desensitized. Going back to the whole rite of passage narrative. My generation, Joey's generation, because we're only 2 years apart in age, we had like Rotten.com, which was notorious, and like everybody had to sort of go click on that website and survive through it. But yeah, it's interesting that Nightmare on Elm Street came up, because immediately what popped in my head when talking about this is New Nightmare, the movie, where it's the meta, Freddy Krueger is killing like Robert Englund and stuff like that. So this is sort of like the New Nightmare of Faces of Death, where it's meta within the movie because somebody's using it as a reference point to make a fictional narrative around a documentary.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be sick, man. Are you guys gonna see it? I know Spaghetti will wait until it's on Blu-ray in 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, definitely, I was considering it. This movie did not do anything to push me towards wanting to see it more. So we'll see. If I probably won't go out to the theater to watch it. I haven't been going out to the theater much at all. So.
This is CBN News Update.
All right. Well, cinematography was from Michael Golden. He was a real cinematographer, probably hired for the stage sequences in Faces of Death. He's not a pseudonym. He is a known figure outside of the film, or not a known figure, rather. His entire filmography consists of this single credit. And, yeah. I don't know. You get an editor, James Roy. That's the thing. Like, there's not much information on all this stuff, but he likely handled the actual assembly. For some reason, I saw some weird credits. I had two random people, Laurel Crushman and Ivan Simone, but I couldn't find anything out about them. And it didn't make sense this thing would have several editors, other than they tagged also Mario Mora, who handled Mondo Cane 2, 1963, Battle of Algiers, Black Belly of Tarantula, like a known entity in Italy. I'm thinking they incorporated small amounts of his footage from maybe Mondo Cane 2 or something. Does that sound right, Spaghetti?
I would assume so, yeah, because he definitely doesn't seem like he's directly connected with the project, so they probably had to list him as a credited contributor, like after the fact, kind of.
It's going to kind of lead us into, hey, this is a Mondo film. I know I described to Joey, I promised to Joey, I was like, this is kind of like a found footage movie. And I'm sorry, I don't actually think that anymore at all, Joey.
Yeah, it's definitely like, we could have a big fight here if we want, I guess, me and Spaghetti. I put kind of all this shit in the same subgenre in a way, mockumentary, screen life, found footage. We can argue about even what's a found footage movie, a lot of people will. And some of those rules are fine with breaking, I think, but like I have a list on Letterboxd, and I include mockumentaries in that. So like, it's in the same solar system, I guess,
lineage.
Right. I mean, they kind of fold on each other to some point. Like, this idea of discovering footage is not in here, but, it is exploiting footage, right? The idea of exploiting, and they do exploit real footage at points, and they, make fake some of it. So it's a similar idea in a way. The execution is different, but it's a nice indie shortcut in a way, for both are.
Let me play something real quick because I prepared this. There is one in particular that I thought was a little found footage-y.
Excuse me.
Channel 9 Action News. I'm here today with Mrs. Ellis. Mrs. Ellis, as well as several other area residents, are having problems with what they consider to be a menace. Mrs. Ellis, can you tell me about that problem?
Yes, I'm very concerned. We've got a big alligator out there in that lake, and I'm really worried about it.
Well, Mrs. Ellis, do you actually fear for the lives of your children as well as your pets?
Yes, I do. The kids can't even go swimming anymore.
Is this your daughter here, Mrs. Ellis?
Yes, please.
Lisa, how do you feel about the thought of going into the water with a potentially dangerous animal?
Not me, no more.
The alligator seems to pose a threat to most of the area residents. Animal control officers have been notified, of course, but calls like this are becoming more and more frequent. And again, today, I believe the animal control officials will have their hands full.
That scene strikes me a little bit as found footagey, because you have the guy who goes out to try to collect the alligator, and he gets pulled into the water and gets attacked and eaten.
Yeah, that one was...
It's a little found footagey.
I had which reminds me to actually pull up my note about the movie here, because I do have some notes. And I think my note on that was, cameraman filming a cameraman and the alligator thing. That's not good coverage, buddy.
I didn't even catch that. That's hilarious. He didn't get the scene very well. I was like, come on, man, focus the camera. I'm trying to see this carnage.
Yeah. Well, that was probably, I don't know if that was like spliced in with normal stuff. It seemed like, you would find someone let's find people talking about something like this and then do the voiceover and, all right, we don't really have anything, so let's just put something in this trash bag and put a flannel shirt on it and jerk it around and, you get in the lake and do this, and then we'll cut to an alligator. We'll put a blanket over it. You can't tell with some of this. I guess that's one of the things that you should be paying attention to in 2026 is watching the seams. Did you guys catch a lot of the seams? What do you mean, like on the effects?
Yeah, just they'd cut away before they did something. I don't know how they did the beheading, though. Did they cut away in the beheading in the Middle East?
It's just a dummy.
Yeah, that's what I figured. This looked like to me.
Gotcha.
And then...
we'll get into it.
Yeah, I think just talking about the found footage thing, I think everybody's on the right track. I think because it is very found footage in an energetic form. I think what this is Mondo in itself is a precursor to the modern day found footage things. And so they are very similar. I think this was a major influence, especially Faces of Death, because with this, it's a lot of stock footage and then staged events is what this film is. And then later on, when there was a devotion to make films that are found footage based, they use the concept of finding notorious footage, and that's the whole premise of that film. Versus this, I don't think found footage was really a formulated genre yet. It was just, this is sort of like an ancestor to it, I guess, if you look at it from that standpoint. That's at least how I compartmentalize it.
Well, I mean, you have to connect it to Cannibal Holocaust, and that would be like my one argument as well. Cannibal Holocaust kind of merges the Mondo film with found footage, and so you have the kind of like link right there.
Yeah.
And that was what, 1980?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
So very soon after Faces of Death, 2 years after, a year after when they were actually filming it. So very linked, but not found footage itself. This is definitely a Mondo movie. I would categorize it as a Mondo movie.
I think your main way to look at it is where are you setting your anchor point of like what genre this film is trying to be. This is clearly trying to be a documentary versus, Cannibal Holocaust is not trying to be a documentary.
Narrative.
Yeah, it's a narrative. And I think that's sort of your difference maker.
And the music here is very Mondo inspired. I don't know if it's very Mondo inspired, but the guy, Gene Carr, he did like a bunch of amazing things called The Astounding She-Monster, Revenge of the Virgins, The Beast of Yucca Flats, Monstrosity, Monstroid, The One-Armed Executioner. He was a exploitation era composer, spanned 50s creature features, 60s crime films, 70s, 80s low-budget genre cinema. I think his scores are really good. I think that's one of the positives to Faces of Death is how good the music is.
Yeah.
It kind of sells the dark atmosphere.
Yeah, it has to put you in the direct frame of mind to get you in the mood to watch this.
This thing had a bunch of producers, but Rosalind Scott, I think, was the main one. Did Faces of Death 2. They probably made a ton of fucking money on this movie. Good for them. Production company was Faces of Death Productions. They just did the Faces of Death movies. This was distributed by Aquarius, releasing in 1981. That was a U.S. theatrical. Not much information about theatrical because it would have been like a midnight movie kind of deal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine seeing Faces of Death in theater?
Yeah, I had the money amount somewhere. Let me see.
There is money amounts, but it's all like it's so estimated that it's like
because it was produced on around 67,000 to 450,000, which is a huge jump from 67 to 450,000, but it's somewhere in that area. But it's suggested it probably made 35 million U.S. box office and 60 global million.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a whole note here. So yeah, 67 to 450,000 disputed. Reported budget ranges wildly and cannot be verified. Faces of Death circulated through regional theaters, drive-ins, grindhouses, and four-wall engagements, often unadvertised and unreported. Its cultural footprint emerged primarily through the home video market, which we were talking about. But the claims of 35 million worldwide gross that circulate online, like there's no way to confirm any of it. It's they're conflating tiny original theatrical run with the home video release.
Yeah,
and that's really dicey. Is trying to tell how many VHSs were sold. We can barely tell how much tickets were sold to movies in the 70s.
Yeah.
Let alone VHS tapes that were like more decentralized.
Well, and that feeds into just Faces of Death in general, of like how its whole mantra is to inflate and play with reality mixed with fictional elements. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were, embellishing how much they made as another selling point of the film.
And this was put out by Gorgon Video. If you know who Gorgon Video is, you're pretty much just going to know that they put out Faces of Death, because that's like the only thing they put out. But they did the 1983 VHS and Betamax, and later the 99 DVD and the 2008 Blu-ray that Spaghetti was mentioning. They did a steelbook recently, too, which I really want that steelbook. This thing was shot on 16 millimeter photochemical intermediate. I mean, this thing would have been weird to put together, but it was struck to 16 millimeter film prints. I don't know, theatrical. There's no real shooting dates, right? There's various source formats. It is 185.1, so it's full, like, widescreen.
When do they...
It has, it's a mix.
Is there any like dates of like when they started putting the idea together and how long it jumped around, or?
I don't have the information myself. Spaghetti, do you?
No, I couldn't find out, like... I probably should have watched one of the featurettes.
I don't know. It says if you go to... Shit, I don't even know. If you go to production on Wikipedia, it really doesn't even have much. It's hard to get information on this thing. I did search pretty good, but there's not much information. The best you could do is that commentary on that Blu-ray probably, or Faces of Death Factor Fiction. But this thing is like a mixture of a bunch of things: 16 millimeter video, newsreel, archival, stock inserts. And it should be noted that the thing we watch, which is the HD release, is cropped and zoomed in comparison to the original release, because the original release was 4:3 square. And because the footage is all over the place. Some of it's wide, some of it's square. And so they had to zoom in to make the Blu-ray full screen the whole time, or widescreen the whole time. We didn't see the real version, guys.
Oh no!
I'm wondering. I'm guessing if going back to the concept wise, I'm guessing that Faces of Death sort of got lucky for what it is, because I mean, in reality, they were making Mondo movies every 5 seconds. And so I'm guessing that this was just, I mean, I'm sure there's a personal story from the creators of it, but looking at historically, they were just mass producing these things, and Faces of Death happened to be the one that like hit the nail on the head of becoming more notorious and infamous compared to 500 billion of the other ones.
I do wonder what the seed of it was, though, right? Like, what did he see that he's like, oh, I could do this? Did you just see like Mondo Cane or a bunch of like Italian shock documentaries or something?
Yeah,
it's like I could do this.
Yeah, and it's like because they were making different ones from different. Like I know I own a German one, and it's what's that one called? A Journey into the Beyond. That's 1975, so that's before this. But basically, they're getting to a point where they're making Mondo documentaries about like any minor subject matter, and I don't think they really did one primarily on mortality and death. I mean, it was always a part of other ones, but I think this was the one that was the main focus of this one, and then it sort of just became an extra notorious brand compared to all the other ones. Like, for example, like there's Mondo Bizarro, which is all just about weird cultural oddities. There's Mondo Fredo, which is all like sexploitation stuff. There's Mondo Bilardo, which is more comedic and goofball. Those are all like 1960s Mondo films before. So I think this just sort of hit the nail on the head for being focused on mortality, and it just gained that notorious brand about it.
And the time it came out in, technically it was 1978. We can really say 1983, right? But this literally was released in 1978. Post-Halloween, pre-Superman, November 78 saw a mix of lingering summer mega hits, prestige dramas, countercultural comedies, and a few oddball genre pieces. Faces of Death would not have competed in any real sense. It lurked in grindhouses, drive-ins, regional bookings, and later VCRs. Faces of Death was a parasitic, marginal, and outside the mainstream theatrical bloodline. But what was out in 78? We had Grease, Jaws 2, Animal House, Heaven Can Wait, Revenge of the Pink Panther. We got Peter Sellers movie, which I included a photo of because I saw that at Zia for $35.99. Damn. But Halloween came out around this time. So that's like the cultural landscape, it's formulating in is like Halloween hadn't even come out yet. It just came out. Up in Smoke, Cheech and Chong, Midnight Express, Lord of the Rings, the animated Ralph Bakshi one.
Yeah.
Something called Magic.
Oh, that's
a Richard Attenborough movie.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins, he's got a dummy in that
It's
movie.
actually a pretty good movie. It's really neat. I mean, it's different, like, it's of its time for sure, but you should watch Magic sometime, Dan. Yeah.
What I want to point out here, though, is Halloween worldwide gross is $47 million. How on earth would Faces of Death have made $35 million? I guess if you conflate the VHS numbers, but even then.
Well, also Halloween wasn't the infamous brand that it was until Friday the 13th came along
until VCR.
Yeah, and then they started that arms race of making a ton of sequels because Halloween was supposed to be a standalone, and then Friday the 13th came along in 1980, and then they started making a Friday the 13th movie every year during the 80s decade. That Halloween's like, well, crap, we better start doing this too. So I wonder if that's also the first one had notoriety of its time, but I wonder if that grew even more throughout the 80s decade.
But like Faces of Death kind of marks an expansion into darker subject matter. Instead of like the giallo, we're straight up just like, hey, we're just killing a bunch of kids in a house. You had a lot more exploitation coming to the surface, and Faces of Death is part of that, which is interesting. One piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Unlike Grease, which made fucking buku bucks, $396 million in the 70s. That's so much money, man.
Although there is a theory that in Greece they're all dead.
Do what?
Really?
Yeah. That's a fan theory.
Faces of Death.
They drowned at the beach in the beginning
moment.
of the movie, but all right.
I believe it. I'm going to rewatch this movie with that in mind, actually. So that's Faces of Death. One thing I want to cover before we kind of just talk formally about Faces of Death is Joey's expectations. I had Joey write out his expectations pre-watch because you had never seen Faces of Death before, right, Joey? You were too afraid before.
I was too much of a bitch as a child. That's right.
So go ahead and read me your thoughts, Joey. I'm curious.
So the real deaths, I didn't think would be too crazy, which they really weren't. The human deaths, anyway. And I had read about the morgue stuff, and I wasn't looking forward to that because, like, I don't know. I still don't like funerals, even like the dead bodies. Just I don't know. Maybe it is too many zombie movies, or just it's just I don't know. It freaks me out. Like I've told my mom and dad, like, please be cremated so I don't have to see you dead. Like, please don't. I do not want to stand there.
Yeah.
While everybody comes by and tells me they're sorry. I thought the fake stuff was going to be really easy to spot, and that I would probably feel really dirty watching this movie. I was thinking it was going to be pretty dated and like similar to feeling like parts of Cannibal Holocaust, but a little more spread out. I was kind of worried that the tone there wouldn't be very much relief through it, and didn't anticipate wanting to see any more of them. I haven't also seen Sallow or a Serbian film because it's just, I don't know. I don't want to see shit just to see shit. I've seen plenty of fucked up stuff and plenty of horror, and nothing really bothers me that much. I mean, some stuff, like, I'll still get a reaction, of course, but it's not like I'm going to have a nightmare about it, and I did not have any nightmares about this. Spoiler. And I watch it in the middle of the day, so that, watching by yourself at night's a different story. Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought going in.
Let's talk about the many faces of death.
The many faces of death.
We're introduced to our main character right away, Francis B. Gross. What do you guys think about Francis B. Gross?
I would think from the name, people would have known this wasn't real. Just from the
yeah.
He's my favorite, man. He's so good.
Unfortunately, medical science cannot always have success. The moment death occurs, my expertise is called upon.
Good afternoon.
When this organ ceased to function, the result was death. The one reality we cannot avoid. I'm Dr. Francis Gross. I work as a pathologist. And over the past 20 years, I've compiled a library of the many faces of death. My travels have taken me all over the world.
My favorite part is his glasses are like fucking off balance the entire time.
I do like a good novelty name, and so I'm sort of glad that it's cheesy. Because, like, if you lean into it a little bit, and his last name is Gross, and he looks like a little bit kooky, I sort of like that aspect. I like a film that's, like, it looks very self-serious on the surface, but there's little quirks about it. It's a callback to sort of, like, a Midnight Madness cinema kind of feel, like the old... people used to do like scare-thons and stuff on local access television. I know it's slightly different because it's its own feature, but it has that spirit about it. And so that's sort of how I sort of enjoy this film a little bit in a weird way.
Michael Carr was the actor who played Francis B. Gross. And believe it or not, he's been in a bunch of Westerns. You believe that? Have you seen him in any Westerns, Spaghetti?
That he's been in? I'd have to click on it.
He was in He Rides Tall from 1964 as Lefty.
He
was in
tall.
Jesse James Women, 1954 as Bob Ford.
I don't know if the only movie I've seen with him in it is Faces of Death.
Yeah, okay. He's also in Erotique as Victor, a segment called Taboo Parlor. We got to check that out. That sounds cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. He's cool. I like Francis B. Gross, and it kind of sets you up. I told Joey, hey, there's a framing device, and Francis B. Gross is that framing device, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, when the movie first started, I was a little distracted by like kind of how bad the audio was. It's pretty muffled. Like the first minute, I was like, "Is this broken?" Like I had to turn it up to like 65 on my TV. But I mean, you know, it would have been kind of neat to have him cut in more. Probably it would have been more effective, I think. But you know, they do what they do.
And he describes his dream. He had a dream about a young woman and a priest. He said the funeral seemed endless, and there was constant images of death.
The many faces of death.
I don't know. Joey said this movie was boring. Do you stand by that, Joey?
Yeah.
What about you, Sweetie? Is this movie boring?
I mean, I like documentaries, and I've always had a affinity for stuff like Ripley's Believe It or Not since I was a kid. So I sort of like it in that like sick, strange world kind of sense. So, but I can see how some would take it as boring as well. It's definitely an acquired taste.
Yeah, you're going to defend yourself, Joey?
I mean, not really. I mean, because it was boring to me. Like, I mean, I think I have multiple times in my notes where I put like, "Fuck, I'm only 15 minutes in. Fuck, I'm only an hour in." You know, and I just
yeah,
it's very dated.
Like...
You know, I've seen stuff better than this before, and I do like documentaries, but you know, old documentaries can be kind of slow in some ways, especially with the monotone voice of the Faces of Death. You know, it's just and you didn't start out hot with all the animal shit. That's just way too much of a bummer to start off on. Like, I know you want to get that out of the way, but it probably would have been better just to leave that shit out completely. And funny enough, like that later that day, I believe it was, I was on Reddit, and one of the, I don't know if it was Interesting as Fuck or one of those stupid Reddits that I'm on, like had, you know, modern pigs getting electrocuted. And they were like, oh, it was much more humane than back in the day. And then people started talking about the stuff we saw on Faces of Death pretty much. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess so, you know. Still like, let me click off that because I do have bacon in the fridge. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, speaking of that, Traces of Death, there's a whole scene where they just roast these pigs alive with like a blowtorch. And I was like, why are they doing this? What am I watching?
Yeah, that's a no for me, dog.
On the air where they've been telling you to get smart. Let me put it in non-announcement terms what we're talking about here. And it means more than just not getting drunk and not doing drugs. It means taking charge, being in control of your life so you would never, ever risk that life or that control with drugs or drinking or any of that stuff. So if you feel the same way I do, and I hope you do, and I know you will, buttons at your high school, and believe me, it pays to get smart.
So let's talk through some of the beats at the beginning here. We have the funeral dream. We have exhumed bodies in Mexico. We have bullfighting, a pit bull fighting ring, the Amazon jungle, which includes bugs killing each other, and piranhas attacking a snake in the river, as well as native savages. We have a farmhouse chicken killing, which I think they play an orchestral version of Old MacDonald Had a Farm, which I thought was like funny. Francis then begins to question his own ability to kill animals for his own meat. So that we start getting like a vegetarian messaging happening. I think that's the, you know, you talk about like what those documentaries in the 2000s or 2010s where it's like Food Inc. and stuff. It's kind of in that, it's almost in that lineage in some ways, because it's trying to like, there's a political message behind Faces of Death. And one of them is, hey, factory farming might not be great. So we see the slaughterhouse, which, you know, sheep and cows. We see the Al Haram restaurant in the Middle East, where a group of people with a hammer go hammer time on a little monkey and eat his brains. You got the guy shooting seals with a rifle. And I like the little note he has there. He's like, The man who kills for pleasure. To feel the power of a gun and nothing else is a dangerous threat to the well-being of this planet. And then we got seal clubbing, Spaghetti's favorite.
Yeah.
We got alligator poaching. We got big alligator attack in the lake, which we talked about. Professional assassin, Francois Jourdan.
My name is Francois.
wait, I got this.
My name is Francois Jourdan. I'm a hired assassin. When I kill, it is for business, not for political, nor even social value.
Love him. And then we get the family hostage standoff quadruple murder, suicide, homicide thing. That was pretty crazy. Another kind of found footage element. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? Where the guy's like standoff with the police at the house. He's like, I'm not fucking leaving. And they're like, get out of there.
And then he just walks straight out into out the door.
Yeah.
This is a common staple of the shock film. Faces of Death, Faces of Death 2, Traces of Death is the standoff. And I think this one's really well done, and it kind of fits into the found footage thing. I liked it a lot. I love when they do stuff like this. I actually don't know, Spaghetti. What was the one Severin put out? What was that movie called? The Killing of America?
Oh, yeah.
Does that one have fake elements in it, too?
That one's more real. I was trying to think if there's anything staged in that. Because it's using
it's
like
a lot
live
of news
events.
footage.
Yeah, Killing of America is probably my favorite Mondo doc. Sometime we should watch that one. But yeah, that one hits. It hits different than this. I wouldn't say harder. But this one is more once you learn that a lot of this movie is staged, then this movie becomes more of a grain of salt versus Killing of America is. I'm gonna say, without researching it right now, because it's been a while since I last watched it, at least 80% real. So.
Yeah, it's more informational. It's just like, look how fucked up America is. Look how much violence there is.
Well, and it takes advantage of like the news system, and it's a lot of like famous events that occurred on news, like anytime like there's a police shooting or a killer comes on set of a news station or something like that. That's what Killing of America is about.
Yeah, I specifically remember the guy holding up the news station. He's like, "No, you stay here. You're in this now."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, that's crazy."
It's got a big media influence to it. So with that, they already have an established baseline of real footage to use.
And to be honest with you, that's my notes on Faces of Death as far as like the plot beats. And all I can really remember from here is that it ends really strange because I know we have there's probably stuff I'm forgetting, and we'll talk about with some of Spaghetti's notes here. But the end is really strange because they have the ESP element, like the psychic thing. Like they're like talking to the dead. And then Francis is like, oh, this has made me question my own belief and faith. He's like, oh, I'm going to, then maybe there is life after death.
Many faces.
And then Faces of Death 2 starts, and he's like, actually, no, that's bullshit. I hope through this documentary that we find out that death is actually not painful for very long, at least. He's like, hopefully death is at least not painful. He changes his tune in Faces of Death 2 real quick. And then Faces of Death 3 takes PTO. So
on my notes, I guess the first thing I just want to comment on was the film famously claimed that it was banned in 46 countries, and that was a marketing tactic. Made it a staple of the video nasty culture, and the 46 countries figure has never been verified by a list of distributors. It was just a marketing tactic, with that, there was a couple countries it was banned in. It was banned in the UK most infamously because it was one of, I believe it was on the Video Nasties list. I think
it was.
It was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the UK, and then Australia. I guess the original film and the sequels, it had significant censorship hurdles. And now it's legally available, but three of its sequels are still banned in Australia, which Australia has a history of that, where they won't show some stuff, I believe.
Yeah, they don't do the Nazi exploitation either, probably.
Yeah, and then Germany has it was banned from public advertising and sale to minors. Which to me, that just sounds the same as like a rated R movie. You're not supposed to technically sell it to a kid. And then, but it was banned for a period due to graphic nature, and the uncut versions were not legally accessible for years. So it sounded like they had an edited version of Faces of Death for a while.
Oh, for sure. I wonder what edited Faces of Death is like, though. Did they do a TV cut of this one?
Maybe.
Faces of Death. Tune in 10 p.m. tonight.
Yeah. And then I guess other temporary bans like New Zealand, certain parts of Europe had heavy editing. So it sounds like there's definitely editing. But yeah, was it banned in 42 or what was it, 46 countries? No.
46 countries.
And then, we already talked about it already, but, Faces of Death became that influential next phase for the Mondo documentary genre. And I put some notes on that, like Mondo in direct translation, just for people that, have context. Mondo means world in Italian. And the first documentary was Mondo Cane, which basically means a dog's world, but it's phraseology meaning a cruel world.
Yeah, dog eat dog world.
Yeah. And so when Faces of Death came out, the exploitation-driven Mondo doc moved from more of a travelogue identity, like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, like this is the bizarre world, moved that to more of the shockumentary that we know today, which there's obviously dosages of shockumentary before that. But I will say, like, I own a good chunk of just various Mondo docs, and a lot of the older ones from the 60s before Faces of Death, they're all that same Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of travelogue setup. Even if they're, like, pigeonholing different kinds of things, like if one's, like, about oddities and one's about sexploitation and one's about... Because I have, like, a lot of those Severin ones that they released. Lot
they're
of
all
them.
bad.
Yeah, they're fun in their own charming novelty way. But yeah, they're all very travel the globe kind of things and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
there's the one about whose death? The one lady who got killed in the accident.
Jane Mansfield. That one, yeah,
Jane Mansfield one.
Yeah, that's a movie I would encourage people to watch just because it's a weird portion of history. It's not the best Mondo doc by any means, but the happenstance that they happen to have Jane Mansfield narrating the doc, and then that's the last thing she worked on, and she got in a horrific car wreck and couldn't finish the movie because obviously she died. And so they didn't know how to end the movie, so what they did is they ended the movie on the car wreck that killed her. It's like, it's sort of crazy how that turned around.
I didn't realize that when I watched that. I don't know how. I thought they just got like an actress to voice it. I didn't know it was her.
Yeah, that's the infamous Jane Mansfield, who was basically Marilyn Monroe after Marilyn Monroe died. She was the next one in line, so there must be a curse or something. But
yeah, it's a good one. It's an interesting one. I'd say check out as well.
Yeah, it's sort of like a level that to watch these films. To watch it formally at face value, sometimes they are quite boring. But if you sort of watch them in that like notorious element of film history, they get a different kind of levity to them, I find.
Yeah, and you could say that for Faces of Death for sure.
Yeah.
Now you say here somewhere between 40 and 50% of the film is staged, and the rest of the film is real stock footage. Let's go ahead and read these off and see if Joey can guess what's real and what's fake.
Oh, I'm still here. Sorry.
Actually, I think. Oh yeah, you're gonna have to mix it up, Spaghetti. You're gonna have to jump from one to the other. You're gonna have to mix it up, buddy.
Okay. How about the medical and the mortuary footage?
Well, I had read that was real, so I think most of that is real. There's a couple scenes like the one where like they're all in a row and like that looked fake with like the very disfigured bodies. So I'm not sure. I think mostly real.
Yeah, as far as I could tell, all the actual surgery elements, autopsy, stuff like that, it's all authentic, which that would be easily accessible. Especially
so you
like,
said open heart surgeries, autopsies. You see the inside of someone's skull after they take the brain out.
Yeah,
a real body washing up on the beach. Yeah, the guy drowned.
Because that would because they take that footage also for like medical science and like people who are trained to become doctors and stuff like that.
Have you guys ever heard of the California? California has like they're called like Red Highway or something. They're like training videos they show you in driver school, and they're just like gore footage of accidents.
Hi, I'm Sam Spatell. A car accident is a traumatic experience, emotionally and physically. Times, counseling is needed. People experience guilt, anger, possibly fear of driving or riding in a vehicle. Without per evaluation, some injuries could go unnoticed until after the settlement of your case. Your rights to thorough attention and treatment are protected by law and should be asserted. Call the law offices of Patel, 221-4048.
Oh yeah, that's real. Yeah, it used to be more notorious back in the day. They don't do it as much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think they used to even just show those like in schools everywhere back in the day.
That sort of leads into
red asphalt.
Yeah,
red asphalt.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, that stuff doesn't really bother me anymore. Because I'm sort of jaded in the sense I was a claims adjuster for a while for auto claims, and so there was quite a few times where I would see accident footage after a car wreck, and so I mean the brevity's still obviously there, and you feel for the person who died in the accident, but I've sort of gotten accustomed to seeing like car wreck footage, so that kind of like the autopsy stuff doesn't bug me as much because I'm used to it. And also, it's really weird, telling on myself here, the surgery elements. I've been through a crap ton of crazy. I had a liver transplant once, and I actually went to the doctor after the fact, and I wanted to see pictures of my own liver. So I've seen my own liver outside of my body in like a tray and stuff like that. So So you
love it.
Yeah, that kind of stuff doesn't really mess with me mentally. Yeah.
This guy is moving this guy's needle.
So
next one. Joey, monkey at a restaurant.
Fake.
Real or fake? Fake. It is fake. It is replaced by a very fake monkey head. Very clearly. But that monkey does seem in distress, right?
Yeah.
He's freaking the fuck out. I feel very bad for the monkey.
Yeah. And then the monkey brains are cauliflower.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I like how they're eating them, but it's like, oh, if you're not going to eat them, I'll have more.
Yeah.
And it's like, these people would not come back to this restaurant for many, many years. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
And it was some restaurant in California. It wasn't actually, they weren't on location either.
They weren't actually in the Middle East next to the Wailing Wall? Okay.
The atrocities Holocaust, that's obviously real. So I'll fly over that. The disaster footage.
That's real, I assume.
Yeah. It was a lot of news-sourced items, like the PSA.
Well, you see the flight
I just assumed
one's crazy.
anything that looked like news footage was real.
Yeah.
And anything that had some narrative story to it was fake.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of obvious.
And I guess that was the movie was primarily completed when that plane crash happened. And so they sort of capitalized on it. It sort of sounds bad. It's not like they're like, great, we got more footage for the movie. It sort of sounds shitty in that way. But I'm
sure that's what it was.
Yeah, it was
this
almost
is Faces of Death, bro.
Yeah, I know. And so they're like, oh, we got this footage to add to the end of the movie. So yeah, all the body parts everywhere from that plane.
So I was wondering, is that what happened? Like, so two planes crashed in the sky, and then literally there's body parts all over what, L.A.?
Yeah,
where the fuck they are?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
How about the electric chair scene?
Yeah, Joey, electric chair.
Fake, very fake.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it looked really good. I've never seen someone get it baked, but it looked good.
Yeah, it was. He had toothpaste in his mouth that he was spitting out.
Is there footage of someone getting electrocuted? I don't think so, right? That doesn't exist anymore. I would have seen it.
Yeah, I don't know what to compare it to. I would assume somewhere there is, but yeah.
It looks crazy though. It looks bad enough. Fake.
Yeah. And then what about the alligator attack?
That like the one where they filmed the cameraman filming.
Yeah, like the game warden.
Fake.
He was pulled into the lake. Oh, fake.
Yeah, that one's fake too.
This is like beyond belief, fact or fiction.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can't believe the other narrative one was fake too. Damn.
Yeah, like I mean, there's a trend like the cannibalistic cult. What do you think that one
cannibalistic
is? Where
cult.
they're eating the organs of that person.
Yeah, that looked like a bad Italian effect. I could see it looked like a Mardi Gras massacre or some shit. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
and it also looked like it was filmed in the '60s. So
yeah, the leader of the cult's the director of the movie.
Oh, so it wasn't filmed.
Yeah,
in the
that's
60s.
all.
Maybe it was. Maybe this is his home film or something. I don't know. So I have this old movie I made.
And then the police shootout. What do you think that one is?
This one breaks my heart. This one's not real.
Yeah, it's fake.
Oh.
Yeah. So that one. We
what about the dogfighting, Joey? Dogfighting.
When I was watching, I thought it was real, but I went later and found out it was not.
Oh, you looked it up. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving you my honest answers.
I thought it could be real.
What I thought before, so. Yeah,
you're good.
Well, I mean,
I thought it was real.
Yeah,
but I'm glad it's not.
Have you ever owned a pit bull, Dan?
No, I've been around them though, but I mean, I've never been around crazy pit bulls.
Yeah,
they're trying to kill each other.
Spread jelly on the dogs. So that's strawberry
They're
jelly.
They're licking jelly on each other?
Yeah.
Were they actually fighting still or what?
I think I mean, the research show that I saw that said that they were playing, but it's still rough. But I have two dogs and they play with each other where they sort of do that a little bit. So I would.
Oh, okay. I don't have dogs. It reminds me of Men Behind the Sun, where the cat is clearly eaten and attacked by rats, and the director's like, no, it was fake, special effects, and I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Shit.
Probably the dogfighting sequence is probably the best in quotations. It's not the best. Like most fun, but it's best as in the sense of well made of the stage.
Yeah, it just looks like archival, right?
Yeah. And then I guess
we already covered the decapitation. You guys already ruined the decapitation for me.
Yeah. And then the snake with the piranhas.
Really?
That's
they
fake.
couldn't even get the piranhas eating the snake. Come on.
And then the cave sequences, obviously.
What was the cave sequence?
Oh, a guy fell in the cave.
Oh, a guy fell in the... Oh, I thought it was real too. Okay, wow.
The animal slaughter is obviously real. That's probably the heaviest part of the film.
That's why they front load it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do with that's what they do with Traces of Death too. So if you don't know anything about Traces of Death, it's a lot more lame. It came out later, and it was like in response to Faces of Death, obviously. And it's just some really weird horror host guy being like, should have went to Spin Glass instead. Yeah. And it's like someone's like, I don't know. And it opens with just 20, 30 minutes of just really hardcore gore of just like archival morgue or like medical training footage. So you're actually seeing gore and like people being ripped open, someone's head being opened, all this shit. They front load it with that. So when they get into the stuff that's a little bit like maybe fake or a little bit less like, I don't know, it tries to trick you into thinking the whole thing is real. And that's what they do with the animal footage in Faces of Death.
Yeah. Now the interesting one, how about the drowning victim?
What do you on the beach?
Yeah.
Well, I had because before I had read, like I tried to see what was real, and like I could just find the condensed Wikipedia, which only had a couple, and it did say that one was real. That's the only one that says out, so I knew that was real just because I had read it previous.
Yeah, that one is the one real one. It was one of the most bizarre events of the film. Was actually the crew was taking B-roll footage on Sunset Beach in California. They were doing later on in the film, there's a whole pollution angle where they're just filming trash everywhere. And so they were out there on the beach filming trash, and somebody happened to say, there's a dead body that washed up on the beach. And they're like, oh shit, we're here. And it's another one of those shitty, like, taking advantage of the situation kind of things. And so they ran over there and filmed this guy who I guess it was ruled that he tried to go swimming intoxicated a couple days prior and then washed up on the beach. So that's a real dead body.
It did look like a real dead body, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can tell. That's what I've always thought. Like whenever I've seen, because I went to a cadaver lab when I was a kid in high school. It was when Skyrim came out. I remember because I went home and played Skyrim. But I got drunk with my friend. We went for field trip. It's like forensics class or something. And I saw a guy's head all opened up, and I just saw his ears. It just looked like, like in Men in Black where they undo the head or whatever. It's like that, but real. Yeah. And I remember being like, his ears are so hairy, and it just looks uncanny. And I think that's something very human, where if you're a human, it's very good that you're able to spot a dead body. Because if you are, it tells you there's danger nearby. So I think the surreal quality or uncanny quality of seeing a dead body is very obvious. And that's one that struck me as like, I think that's real.
Yeah. And you could sort of tell, like, I think it might have been more embellished a little bit, maybe. But I don't know. I was sort of surprised, though, how normal he still looked. I would imagine he would have been more bloated with seawater or something like that. Because he was there for a couple days, I guess it said, but I don't know. I'm not an expert at seeing drowned bodies. So
yeah. There's also the one I wanted to bring up before we all leave here, but there is the suicide jumper. That's got to be real. And
yeah,
there's the snake cult. That was fucking ridiculous. I don't know what that was up with that. Obviously, it was just like you make up the words on the narrative on top of the footage. The one thing I want to talk about was the cryogenic patient Samuel Berkowitz. You guys hear about this? The cryogenic patient who was like, they're freezing themselves with hopes that one day future technology will be able to revive them.
Are you not familiar
Samuel
with the
Berkowitz,
cryogenics?
I am, but I've never looked into it. But Samuel Berkowitz himself didn't make it very far. Apparently you have to keep paying for this thing. And his relatives didn't want to, so they ended up like just unthawing him and burying him in like formaldehyde or something weird.
Yeah, in 1983 he was thawed and buried.
Yeah. No attempt was made to preserve the brain. I don't know, this is a whole rich people thing, but I would not do that. I don't have faith that we're going to be able to bring people back from the dead. What about you guys?
No, probably not. I mean, I thought it was always funny, like, the running joke for years was like that Walt Disney's head was, preserved.
Yeah.
And I think they've had that like in The Simpsons a bunch, haven't they? Like him and I forget who else, Ronald Reagan or something they would joke about. I thought it was always an interesting idea, but, as I read about it, like there's really no way that can really happen. Like, there's too much structural damage.
Yeah, I think it'd be more the advent of like. I think the more cloning is more viable than bringing somebody back to life, because, like, from my own experience, they're just switching out parts, and it's like, well, I'm trying to think, like, am I fully myself, or I got a dead person's liver inside me.
Right.
And so
like
it's
if you
like,
start just changing out everything, I mean, the brain, I guess, is the big thing, your consciousness. And like, then you can get into this Ray Kurzweil type idea of transplanting a consciousness at some point. And AI, I guess, is, talked about possibly being a thing in the future to do that. Like, especially if you've been born in the digital age and like, there's a somewhat of a footprint, and like, say you had a journal or whatever else, and there's some way they could replicate you and then make you a new body and drop a consciousness in there. Like, would that be you or no? Or like John dies at the end. Jason Pargin's book starts off, and the movie starts off with it too, that they made of it. Of like, if you bought an axe and you replaced the handle, and then later you replaced the head, and you replaced, at one point, is it still the same axe that you had previously, or when did it become the new axe? When all the parts were replaced. So.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Samuel Berkowitz.
Yeah.
In the headlines, Iran attacked the U.S. military in Gulf for the first time today.
The Iranians then attacked. There were no American casualties or damage to any of the U.S. helicopters, and the helicopters then returned fire, sinking 3 of the vessels, Pentagon sources said. Reagan's Central American Fleet plane also came under attack.
I actually do have some background on Faces of Death I wanted to read real quick. This comes to us from our friends over at the Lost Media Wiki, lostmediawiki.com, folks. A lot of information here I had not come across before or come across prior, so I want to give credit where credit's due. They say here, the film was conceptualized by John Allen Schwartz, a producer for his father's film company that specialized in nature documentaries. However, Schwartz became intrigued by Mondo films like Mondo Cane, exploitation works that typically showcase the taboo and often graphic nature of human and animal culture. When a representative from a Japanese film company approached him with Ultima Grida dalla Savana, which documented various animal fatalities, Schwartz offered to produce a counterpart, which would also include human deaths. A sizzle reel he established received acclaim from the company, which subsequently gave him financial backing and a full creative input to produce a film intended for the fledgling Japanese VHS market. The Japanese organization believed Schwartz could achieve this, as they felt the project was not too dissimilar in presentation when compared to his nature works. The work's objective was to provide visual depth regarding death as a subject matter, hence the name Faces of Death. Schwartz then hired Glenn Turner as the film's editor, the pair having been childhood friends and had previously worked together on other documentaries. The film's original premise was very simple: obtain a large amount of stock footage and edit it into a compelling package. Such videos could be obtained from local news stations, which during the 60s and 70s would frequently travel alongside emergency crews to capture often disturbing scenes. Naturally, only a few highlights could be considered safe for television, though the full uncut tapes would still be stored at the stations. Capitalizing on this, Schwartz purchased a large bulk of unused newsreel footage at exceptionally cheap prices. He, Turner, and others then assessed hours of the most grotesque footage that had ever been captured, a process Turner described as tedious and harrowing during his Faces of Death 30th Anniversary Edition interview. Turner admitted that some of the worst footage triggered nightmares, which made him contemplate quitting the project. However, he decided to continue until the film's completion, because removing sensitive content would defeat the film's purpose. Among the footage Schwartz obtained included the suicide of a woman who leapt from an apartment building, as well as a body parts montage. In his book, My Faces of Death, Schwartz stated most clips were obtained in Germany, while the body parts tape came from California. Some footage was obtained from private collectors. His connection with a doctor meant Schwartz also gained access to the LA County morgue, where he could observe autopsies and later film one of them. The collection of such material has provoked controversy, as those acquainted with the dead were typically not informed the footage was being considered for the film. Nevertheless, a rough cut was established for the Japanese investors. Originally, the film's unique selling point was that, in an era before YouTube and other online video sharing platforms, seeing legitimate scenes of death was a rare sight. Historical material, including from World War II, was publicly available, but very little else was shown on films and television broadcasts, subject to strict regulations. Turner described the original cut as very difficult to watch. Upon presenting the film to the Japanese investors, Schwartz and Turner were surprised to learn the company wanted more death. By this, they meant a proper narrative structure to document each fatality. As Turner explained, the investors did not want to simply witness a woman jumping out of a building. They also demanded to see the aftermath content and a background of those who witnessed and recorded it. Often, aftermath footage alone could not provide sufficient context, leading instead to the idea of reenacting the death scenes, with actors and essentially finishing the stories. An interesting aspect is that most actors requested not to be properly credited, as they did not want to be permanently associated with the film. Schwartz himself hid his name from the credits, instead opting to place Conan Le Cilaire as the director and Alan Black as the writer. Meanwhile, Turner, who also portrayed a police officer and a serial killer in the work, was credited as James Roy. To this day, Schwartz has respected the anonymity of those who worked on the project, and even insists that he be called Le Cilaire in interviews. Reenactments, including of a fatal train crash, painstakingly replicated the lighting and camera shots of the original footage. The gore, the blood, and other necessary special effects were provided by a company led by Alan Apone and Douglas White. Like Turner, they observed many hours of graphic, newsreel footage so that they could realistically replicate the horrific scenes. For instance, the infamous monkey brain scene harnessed a trained monkey being attacked by rubber mallets while placed in a specialized dining table. After it was supposedly killed, the monkey was replaced with a skull model, which contained cauliflower to mimic brain and blood matter. The reenacted scenes were realistic enough to be considered real snuff footage by many viewers. Amazingly, the cult sacrifice scene received an FBI investigation because it ended up being split away from the faces of death and featured in numerous low-quality VHS tapes purporting to be real. Other scenes have since been debunked following the release of the 1999 film Faces of Death: Fact or Fiction. This included a dogfight, which Schwartz recalled consisted of two pit bulls that really did have beef with each other, but was mainly faked thanks to the usage of theatrical blood. It should be noted that one pit bull nearly passed away from this due to exhaustion, though the fight was stopped before a fatality occurred. The dog's collapse was used to claim that a victor had emerged from this duel of death. Despite the recreations, around 30 to 60% of the final cut still consisted of legitimate death footage, including from the Holocaust and the gruesome aftermath of a collision between a lorry and a cyclist. One real scene arose, completely by chance. As the film crew were filming footage of the work's end sequence, they were shocked to discover a dead body had washed ashore. It was later revealed the man was a surfer who had accidentally fallen into the water after taking LSD and subsequently drowned. Footage of the deceased man was included in the final version. Schwartz also recalled that during the film's dream sequence, the decision was made to place an office secretary in a coffin. This almost ended in disaster as the woman fell unconscious inside the closed coffin, having been deprived of oxygen. The film was narrated by Dr. Francis B. Gross, portrayed by Michael Carr. Throughout it, he analyzes the deaths and provides philosophical reflections regarding this taboo subject matter. His character was based on Dr. Nils Hellstrom of the 1971 mockumentary The Hellstrom Chronicle. Despite the costs involved for the stage scenes, the film was reportedly completed on a mere $450,000 budget. Originally released in Japan as junk, it became a major hit in the country, in cinemas and on the VHS market, with Schwartz even claiming it outperformed Star Wars in some areas. Its impact was especially noted in Hong Kong, having reportedly become among the country's top 20 highest grossing works. Though it was only released in underground theaters across the United States starting in Los Angeles in 1980, it became a highly popular video nasty across Western society. by challenging those who bear its horrific content. Although not actually banned in 46 countries as its marketing claimed, Faces of Death was certainly blacklisted in places like the United Kingdom and Australia, which clamped down on video nasties in the 1980s. Despite this, punk subculture relished the film among other extreme recordings. Thus, Faces of Death reportedly made between $35 and $40 million at the box office, inspiring the release of 3 sequels. Despite being a key name involved in the project, Schwartz claimed that he only received $15,000 for his work, with the majority of the profits instead being split among the distribution companies.
I guess for me, Faces of Death, I give it a high regard, but only from like a historical standpoint. I go into like my film history brain, and that's where I give it its props, its flowers, because like I said, there's Mondo Cane, and then I think Faces of Death is probably the second most prevalent. Or even the most prevalent of the Mondo docs, because Mondo Cane obviously started it all, but I think Faces of Death was a whole changing cycle of the whole genre. And then, as we're speaking to more modern day stuff, it's using footage found in a documentarian sense, but then later on, the whole shock value created a whole genre, the found footage genre and stuff like that. So this is a very influential film in that regard. Pragmatically watching it straightforward, I don't think it has nearly the same effect as it did back then, but it's a different era, and it was definitely a pre-internet world, and so this definitely had a notorious brand about it.
Do you recommend Faces of Death?
I think I recommend it if somebody really wants to get to the root origin points of history with film genres and stuff like that. I think it's a one to study if you're a film historian. Do I think some people are not going to have fun watching it? Yeah. But also, though, I think if people are in on the concept that some of it's fake and some of it's not, it sort of becomes a game to guess what is fake and what's not. So that makes it... I would recommend it to the right person.
And what about you, Joey? Do you recommend Faces of Death?
Not really. Like, I agree with Spaghetti, though. Like, all of us here are somewhat in that vein. I wouldn't necessarily call myself like a film historian of any type, but I do like to find the roots of things and where they've come from and trace that out, especially with certain genres. So, this is one that I'd always knew existed and just had never got around to. It just didn't have enough gravity for me. I'm not going to watch any of the other ones, but if you want to see the roots of stuff, it's probably one you should. Otherwise, no.
And do I recommend Faces of Death? Yes, I do. Again, for the historical reasons, but also because it's a rite of passage here on The Haunted Frame. to thank you two gentlemen for joining me here on the inaugural episode of The Haunted Frame and for talking about and watching The Faces of Death with me, a movie that is not easy to get people to watch and talk about. So I really appreciate you two. Is there anything you're working on? Anything I can point people to? Just your letterboxd?
That's it.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. And you're always welcome on The Haunted Frame. This will be more regular, folks, so don't expect these every week. But, if we have a weird exploitation horror movie we want to talk about that's outside of the regular thing, like we want to talk about some SOV horror. What do we have in the tank, Joey? Do we have anything in the tank right now we want to talk about in the future?
We've had talkings about, doing some found footage stuff. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
No, we'll figure it out. What about you, Spietta? You got any suggestions? Any good movies that fit with the inaugural episode being Faces of Death?
Yeah, I think obviously Killing of America, I think would be a good segue film. And then also I think if we're going on the whole historical standards, I think we should do Cannibal Holocaust. Because Cannibal Holocaust is that next evolutionary step. But yeah, I'm sure I can think of quite a few outside of the box horror films that'd be great for this show.
Yeah, and if you listeners out there have suggestions, leave them in the comments. Hit the like button. I'm going to do my ad now here at the end. Rate the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Share it with a friend. Send it to your family. Hit the like button on YouTube. Subscribe. Drop a line. Leave a comment. Slam that notification bell. Join the Discord. Hang out and chat with us. Follow Dan's Night Out on Instagram and check out our other links in the description. The Haunted Frame relies on the kindness of listeners like you, taking the time out of your day to make a difference, and our bargain remains. If you leave a review, we will read it live on the show, live on air. Thank you. Now, to end the program, do either of you two have some parting words for our amazing listeners that sat through us talking about this horrible film for an hour and a half?
I hope it wasn't as boring as the movie was. Good night, everybody.
Live life to the fullest and remember to eat your vegetables.
Many faces.
Meet little Melvin. He's a 90-pound weakling. Everyone hated Melvin.
I'm gonna take this mop and shove it down your throat.
They teased him.
I wanna do it with you. Okay.
They taunted him. They tormented him until he had a horrifying accident and fell into a vat of nuclear waste, transforming little Melvin into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. Melvin became the Toxic Avenger.